Hello, everyone. I'm Shelly Dressel, and tonight I'm going to be channeling the universal light beings. These are three individual beings that come from different parts of the universe, and they first started coming in through me in 2016, so I've been working with them for quite a while. Albayon represents Arcturus, Brysentia represents the Pleiades, and Crystallia represents the Omniverse. So in this evening, I'm going to channel all three. So I know it's kind of a long evening, but hang in there. And if you're listening to this later, thank you. Hang in there. I did consider at one point doing just each one individually, so it would be a lot shorter, but this is all for free. And then that's a chunk of time. So I just decided, okay, I'm in here. I'm doing it. We'll get all three of them done. And I just do the best I can. So hi, everyone. I see people from from YouTube that are saying hello here. So welcome. If anyone from Rumble or Facebook could say hello, that would be great. I've been seeing streaming platform, and I've been seeing that people are complaining about Facebook and having trouble with it. And I'm also, hi, Karen, good to see you. And I know that the last time that we channeled, it did not post. I mean, it was there live because I could see people with the Facebook emblem asking questions, but it never showed up again. So I think it's kind of crazy, but good to see you, Diane. So lots of people are coming in here. Okay, here's the Facebook. Hi, good. And here's Rumble. Okay, great. So Jill is in, yeah, I know Jill. Anyway, I thought you were usually on YouTube, but whatever. So Montreal. So we've got people from all over, which is one of the many, many things I love about doing these channels is that we come together as a planet. You know, we have people from all over the world that listen. And this is just the live reading. I mean, the live channeling. And there are many people that listen to it later on. And that, again, is coming from different parts of the world. So I appreciate that. The world's getting smaller and smaller, and we are all interconnected. And all of the work that we do with one another, especially through tuning in and listening to this and receiving the downloads, you know, all of that is going into the collective consciousness, which is then helping everybody on the planet and the earth itself and the water and the many, many, many different things. So, yep. Hello from Rumble. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's from Mexico. Great to see you. Now, I know that Alexander had told me that there weren't as many questions that were coming into the website. So I know we're all here right now, but if you're listening to this later, jump over to the website, crystallinetransformations.com, and go ahead and post your question. You can do it at any time in the 2 weeks between the sessions. And he'll just keep track of it for me and then post those questions as we go along. If you do have something you want to ask, go ahead and put it in here, but it sometimes gets missed because of people talking and we stream past it. Okay. What else did I want to say? Okay. So this is the anniversary month for me with Goddess Light. I've been channeling the Goddess of Creation since 2001, and I've had my website and teleconferences since 2003. So 22 years I've been doing that. And I am offering as a gift for everyone, if you're interested, you send me an email, and you can go to my website, goddesslight.net or crystallinetransformations.com, and there's a blog, and you can just fill out the form in the blog. And then that way, it sends me an email with your question in it. I'll channel an answer for you, send it back. But it's been quite a few people enjoying this. So yay, I appreciate that. So I'm just saying it may be several days before you get your response. So don't sit on pins and needles, because it actually is taking a little bit longer to do each one of these than I anticipated. And like I said, I think last weekend I did 18 over the weekend, which was hours worth of work. And so now I'm working through the ones that I've been getting this week. So feel free to send a question if you would like to. And then I will find an answer for you or channel an answer for you when I have a moment to do so. Karen from Alberta, thank you. Good to have you. So I am just going to jump right in. I have said my messages now. Oh, and if anyone wants to work privately with me, you can look for that on my website also. I'm not going to send you an email and ask, do you want a session? It's never going to be like that. But if you want a session, go look at the website and you can look at the information and then sign up for something. Okie dokie. So let me get quiet here and I will see what's going to happen. Greetings. It is I, Brysentia, and I come in this evening to begin our time together. Sorry, I'm downloading into Shelly and it was just too much information too fast. I am incredibly excited about all that is happening on the planet. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So even though I have full consciousness of thousands of lifetimes or hundreds of lifetimes, or I can tap into them very easily, we shall say, I still, I have maybe more that I can conceptualize and have going on at the same time than what you can have. And this is something that humanity is working towards. So I wanted to say that, and I don't think I really explained it very well, but what I wanted to say is that I was very, very, very involved in Lemuria. I was involved in other time-space realities, Lemuria was one of the very first. But when you look at time-space reality, it may seem like there were things older than Lemuria. So I was very much a part of about 3 different eons that took place upon the earth. And as the ascension continues to rise, as the vibration of the planet continues to rise, I have more and more of those other lifetimes that are now becoming much more present in my consciousness. Whereas before I might say, okay, I would like to find out about this. I could go there. I could get the information. It's there. But now, even for me, it's populating inside my consciousness because oftentimes there's something about it that I need to know, I need to remember. And so that's why it's coming up like that. But it's really fascinating to me because what I'm also seeing is happening to a lot of you is that, especially through your dream state, you are getting memories and you're living experiences that you might consider past lifetimes. And this is because the more that the energy rises, the more that you're in the higher frequency of everything, the more that you are going to be able to access through your soul these other life experiences. So if you're working with your soul through your intuition, through channeling, through energy work, through whatever it may be, you have that distinct ability to be able to say, hey, did I have a life during such and such a lifetime? And you might get the answer yes, or you might get images, or you might get a feeling, or you might just have that knowledge drop down into your consciousness. Many people are talking about, in fact, Shelly is considering looking at having an opening to channel class again. She's trying to rewrite and change what she has done before, because before it was like an 8 or 10 hour class. And so she's trying to see what she can do to constrict it. But I've been actually encouraging her, as is Crystallia, to have another class because the energy is changing so much. And there are many, many of you now that are like, well, I think I'm getting information. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to understand it. And in addition to that, there have been about 2 or 3 people that have just specifically said, can you help me with channeling? So you can look for that because we're in the process of rewriting it. And then as that comes up, we'll be publishing that and you'll be able to find that information. Okay. Now, the reason that I was stepping back into this, the pyramids were not present. They were present to a degree during Lemuria, but it was actually more so after Lemuria when they really had the pyramids placed in different parts of the planet. And one of the questions, people were asking questions about this since the last time we got together. And so I will go into a little bit more detail. One of the biggest things is I'm going to see what I can do. And you know, it's sometimes difficult to say the name, but in the pyramid in Giza, which is the one that it's like people act like that's the only pyramid there is. That one is associated with Andromeda. That one was built by the Andromedans. They used the energy of Andromeda as they made the soil, or they worked with the soil as they made the bricks. So the actual bricks of the pyramid include the energy of the Andromedans. There is other energy that was infused into it from other parts of the universe, but that one is primarily known as that. Machu Picchu and South America was frequently the Pleiadians. So just as they infused their energy into that, we did the Pleiadians. If you go down to Australia, the Syrians were very much a part of the Australian and that lower part. When you go over like to Russia and you look at that, those were done by a lot of the Arcturans were up in the what you now call Russia. If you look further down into China, like there's the upper China and Russia was all just one landmass. So if you look at the upper part, which is what you now call Russia, that's where you saw a lot of the Andromedans. As you came much further south and you're looking at China as it was the Himalayan mountains and those places, a lot of that came from, sorry, the name just dropped into Shelly and then it went straight out. It is not one of the planets that you work with consistently, but it was a very highly evolved and ascended race. They Draco, no, not everyone thinks of Draco reptilian, nothing like that in the least. But it was Dardova, something like that. Anyway, so the area around the Himalayan mountains, frequently when you guys think about it right now, as you're talking about it, as you go there, if you might go there on a vigil, it is what was oftentimes considered the top of the planet. And there are always very ascended energies that are there. There's been talk about the Atlantean records are kept there. And so indeed, that was populated, and we're not talking about China now, we're talking about going more towards the Middle East and the Himalayan mountains and Tibet. And that is the one that is coming down. Shelly was like, we should have worked on this earlier, but ran out of time. Anyway, that comes from a place out in the universe that has somewhat ascended out of this universe because they went more so into the omniverse. You know how Crystallia comes and she doesn't have any physicality and she's never been exposed to a lot of the trauma, the vibration that's so low that we have on this. That's where the people are that anchored in Tibet. They're not in this universe anymore because they transcended out of the universe. And this is one reason why she's struggling to come up with the name. If you go down into Africa, there that was a very, very, very popular one. And that is the one that was taken over by the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki came from a particular part of the universe, and their planet was not called Anunnaki, but they were the breed of people that came from there. But they went there particularly because of the caves and the gold and the diamonds and the minerals that were in that part of the planet. And so when you think back, when you look at South America, that's very much, we apologize. When you think of Africa, and especially as you're going down into South Africa, and there was a transition in which there was a great deal of the negativity with the Anunnaki. As you know, there's a large strain of them that had nefarious means, and they're behind a lot of the nefarious things that took place. And this is one reason why South Africa, what is called South Africa right now, is filled with so much drama and so much violence, because all of that is being removed and taken out. And as you know, as things rise to the top and as that energy has to be transitioned, that's why they've been struggling right now. And then in that which you call Antarctica, there was another one. So that was, what is it? Antarctica, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Australia, seven. Yeah, it feels like there were seven primary, And I know that I have said it before, there were actually 12 different species that created the human DNA. So there were other parts, but many of them just were close alignment with one of these. These are the 7 people that were the primary ones living on the earth and inhabiting the earth as it was integrating into these new energies, or what was considered new energy at that time. Okay. So because each one represents a different part of the universe, there are some differences in them. Giza is known for that because it's got the Sphinx, because it's got the pyramid, and because it's got the tunnels, the spirals that are underneath it. Just about every single one of the pyramids have some form of those spirals underneath it. Giza has more than the others do because it was considered a center. And frequently people would send information from the other parts of the planet into Giza, and then that went out to the entire universe. So that was, and again, doesn't that also go along with what you recall of the Andromedans, that they were somewhat the peacekeepers of the universe, that they were the ones that always, what's the word we want to use? That when there's a dispute or something that goes on, they go to the Andromedan Council in order to find that to find an answer for what's going to go forward. So you're going to hear a lot about this, and you're going to hear a lot about the Andromedans, and you're going to hear a lot about all the different cultures that are out in the universe that are coming forth at this time. So be aware of that, be open, and know that many people are just going to call them ETs, or there's another word for it now, non-terrestrial, or we don't remember the other word. You guys keep changing your words that represent things. And so I can't remember what it is right now. But anyway, so just be aware that when people are talking, they're going to kind of give a blanket statement for what all of the non-terrestrials are like. And indeed, as you are very well aware from having worked with us for so long, there are very distinct differences in each one of us. And yep. So back to, sorry, I was just trying to download some more information into Shelly's consciousness. Anyway, so coming back to this, Giza is the one that's going to have the majority of the focus, but you are going to start to hear that, oh, there's a pyramid over here, and oh, there's a pyramid over here. And you're going to hear about the fact that there were dinosaurs in all these different parts of the planet, and that the dinosaurs actually lived way longer than what you anticipated than what you anticipated they did. Okay. So coming back to the energy that is generated by this, it does use the magnetics of the earth, but there's also water it's not the type of water that you see on your planet. It's not the drinking water, but there was a special ionized water that would be part of this that would kind of keep it cooled. And so that's another one of the aspects that you're going to begin to hear about in terms of these tubes that are underneath the pyramid in Giza. Now, if you think about Alexandria and the Library of Alexandria, that has oftentimes been considered the library of all the ancient text and the ancient history. That is underneath the Sphinx or within the Sphinx, but they did have other aspects of it. As a diversionary method, they would put some books or some copies of books in what they call the Alexandrian Library. And there were many people for several hundred years that treasured it, took good care of it. And so that is not a false thing in and of itself, but it's not the complete library. There's a lot more of the library that is inside the Sphinx and underneath the Sphinx. Now, people are going to start, they're not going to dig up completely because there are many, many, many safety guards, you would say, that are in place. And so they're not going to be excavating all of these things, but they are going to be sending drills down. They are going to use different types of technology that can see what is beneath them without having to actually open things up. So when they start looking beneath the Sphinx, they're going to start seeing like solid rooms as opposed to there is like a platform, or there is a kind of a crisscross, kind of a back and forth that is underneath the pyramids that's linking these different anchors together. Okay. Let me also say to you that in the Himalayan mountains, as we spoke of this, the time before Lemuria was frequently kept up in those Himalayan mountains with that group of people that, again, have ascended off this universe. And they have many, many, many different volumes of information there. Some people call them the Atlantean tablets, but they actually were before Atlantis. They just didn't, the people that called them that just didn't have a point of reference to say, oh, they're even older than Atlantis, because they felt like Atlantis was the oldest, not recognizing that there was also Lemuria and that there were other time, space realities, or eons, if you want to call them that, in which there was humanity living on the earth at a very, very high vibration. So what they have up in Tibet, you do not see unless you are vibrating at about a 9th to 10th dimensional frequency. So these tablets are kept there because they're made of the earth, because it is the earth's history, but they cannot be seen, they cannot be read. And for a very, very long time, there were monks that would protect this area. But with all of the destruction that's been taking place for the last, could be as long as 2,000 years, but primarily the last 1,000 years, they shifted it into a higher dimension. There would be random people that were able to see what was there, to keep the memory alive that, oh, there's tablets up in this part of the world. So if you go back and you look through your history, there are certain people that that have been able to see some of these volumes, but not very many, probably less than a dozen people over the last 1,000 years have been able to see it. Okay, so that kind of brings up again, what is your history, and does history matter? And the answer is the history of your planet is way, way, way more complex than many of you give it credit for. When you think about, say, let's just say Camelot, the time of Camelot, the time of Avalon, that are kind of hand in hand with one another. Those lasted for a very, very, very long time. And during that time, that was also frequently when the Vikings, as you called it, would come down. And you think about this history and you think about what was going on there. And actually, there was a great deal of learning that was taking place, because it was during Atlantis, it was the fall of Atlantis that wiped out the consciousness of the planet. And that's when the nefarious ones come in. So you've spent thousands of years trying to remember who you were, what the planet was, why the planet is here, and what's been going on. There was also, many of you have heard this before, so I think, this might not be anything new, but because we're talking about this, there were many souls that were trapped in a cycle where their primary aspect of their soul energy was stuck in this consciousness of the earth, going around and around and around. Everybody, every single one of you do have an aspect of you that's living out in the universe. And it could be that the primary amount of your soul is out in the universe, and just a small section is what comes down and works with the earth plane. Others of you that have been here throughout this whole process over and over and over again, you've got a large amount of your soul aspects that are committed to living in this planet. So many of you were the ones that got stuck in that cycle where live, die, live, die, live, die, live, die. And it was hard. There were many of us that would come in. We could see what was going on. We tried to talk to people about it, and a few people were able to break it. But that was, in essence, the first time that people were experiencing mind control, because that process and that keeping you separated from the entirety of your soul created in your consciousness a sense of limitation, a sense of smallness, a sense of not being your true, authentic soul essence. And that was, everything is exactly what needed to happen throughout these years in order to get to where you are today, in order that through consciousness, people can shift into the higher vibrations, can acknowledge that their soul essence is way more, is way bigger, that they've had way more lifetimes than they ever realized. And therefore, through that consciousness, the love, the ascension, the process, everything is coming within each person. There are some people that just are overflowing with that love, with that awareness. And there are other people that just know it. I know it. I know what that is. They don't have to talk about it. They don't have to share it with anybody. It is just them. It is just a part of them. And then there are other people that know there's something they're looking for. They know there's something that they're consciously trying to find. And those are the people that are considered part of the awakening right now. But anyway, I went down a little rabbit hole there. So I wish to talk to you about the importance of the pyramids and the fact that they are all around your entire planet. And that when you think about when they were, those many thousands of years, you've had floods that were over the whole entire planet. You've had ice ages. You have had many different things. There have been earthquakes. There have been volcanoes. There have been many things that covered up a great deal of the surface of your planet. In part, this is how a planet grows, is that there is, frequently water, ice, land, and that cycle of how everything works. It just puts another layer, so it gets bigger, another layer, it gets bigger. And this is one of the reasons why people are just now beginning to realize, oh my gosh, that goes so deeply. And what are those deep aspects of it? Well, most of that was outside of the earth plane at the time that things were at their peak. And this is basically the tip. Okay, I just heard someone say, well, what do you mean? Was it like this is a fourth of it, a third of it, half of it? It depends on where you go. Some of it is as little as a fourth of what's truly there is what shows above the earth. But because of Giza, sorry, because of Giza, and because of the traffic that it has, and because of the way that the nefarious one stayed in that area to manipulate it and keep it controlled, there is a little bit more of that. There's probably as much as maybe a third to a half of it that is above. There's a great deal more. And as I'm looking at it, it may be closer to a third than a half. Yeah. The rest of it is underneath the ground. So it's really spectacular when you stop to think about it. And these are the parts of this planet that were intentionally created to be here throughout the entire length of the time that there is a planet and that there is consciousness on this planet. There were times when all of these pyramids were literally humming and communicating with one another, communicating with the universe. And there was people coming in and people going out in a very constant flow. And then there were many thousands of years of dormancy. And then now things are reawakening, and it's awakening because the earth has ascended. Whew, okay. Well, I think I'm just going to let that be there. I don't know that. Okay. Yep. One other thing I did want to talk about. So we can't talk about these types of pyramids without saying that those ones that I mentioned to you are like the primary focus of where each of these cultures from the universe planted or, placed the mark of who they are. But if you go in very long areas, some of them are like the center of a spoke and then going out in every different direction. You will find other pyramids or other outposts in which they send communication back and forth. So you may be, say, in South America, and Machu Picchu is our primary place of living down in South America, but through Lake Titicaca, going through the Andes Mountains, going up through all these different places, there are multiple different pyramids. Well, all of them in Mexico and Central America. They were all part of our communication system. And so that's why you are going to see these in different places. But if you tune into them, I was just going to say, if you put your hand on it and say, who's this? You don't even have to touch it. If you tune into them and ask, what is this? Which system is this a part of? You will find out, more information about that. So there have been many of what you call the natives, like the Incas, the Aztecs, there are so many ancient peoples that have lived in these different parts of the world throughout time. And many of them were beings that came straight down from the universe and then stayed here permanently. Others of them were the Gaia herself made a group of beings. They like literally came out of the earth. They were created from the earth, and it was created in harmony with those of us that were coming into the earth. In fact, they were there before the majority of us came in. But I can see, like, those that are the true, authentic first people that ever took care of the earth plane, they're the ones that worked with Gaia to create that source of people that were the very original people of the earth. So you will find many tribes are descendant of them, and they're the ones that stayed in these various areas to maintain the pyramids, to maintain communication, or to maintain the portals, because they know what's going on. And with what you have now, even most of those have over the years had that memory removed from them, because when the nefarious ones removed the memory from the planet, they did almost the entire planet, and only very small sections or segments of places were able to retain that original thought process. Okay, that's what I wanted to finish with. Are there questions for me tonight? Will our Canadian federal election vote on April 28th make any difference to the outcome? So basically, let me first of all just look at Canada. Let's look at what's going on there, because we do know that they are starting to take out the people in the government that have been nefarious. We feel like there is going to be a vote on April 28th, and we do feel that it does not feel like it's going to be 100% honest. It feels like there's still some nefarious things that are going to go on. However, there are so many people now that are awakening. And with these people that are awakening, they're starting to look at stuff. So if there is something nefarious, which I feel like there is something, not 100% sure if it's 100% stolen election or if it's just bits and pieces of it. But it feels like whatever it is that happens, it's going to be the stepping stone, because all these other people in Canada that are aware of things are going to say, no, we disagree. No, we're not going to tolerate that. And this is what the world has to do. Every single country around the planet has to stand up and say, I am not going to accept that. I don't believe that is accurate. I do think that there's been some manipulation, and that's the way that these changes will finally take place. So my sense is that, yes, there will be an election. Yes, there will be a lot of talk going up to it. But even now, there's still too much of that, what do you call it, mainstream media, that's just ignoring a lot of what's going on in Canada. So people have got to start speaking up. People have got to start, what's the other word? You can do the energy work, start working with the election, start working with the people that are involved, that you're shining a light on them, that you're showing that, hey, by the way, this has been corrupted in the past. And there have been, you're looking at the fraud in the United States. We've got it going on up here too. And people have to start saying that, and things like this have to take place. I see that there's about a 60 to 70% chance that that is what will happen. So this is why I say there's enough of a chance that the nefarious are going to try to sneak in one more person, thinking we can get one more person behind or through. But what will happen is it will be the impetus to show the rest of the Canadians the nefarious actions that have been taking place. Okay. Is ivermectin safe to take? So ivermectin, we believe, might have been Albayon, or if it was me, 1 or 2 times ago, they were talking about the something blue and some of these different alternative medicines that were used in the past. And ivermectin is one of those that when it very first came out, it feels like in the 70s or 80s, that it was incredibly effective. But at that time, they did not have enough of the vaccines. They didn't have the same amount of chemicals in the water. And so when you look at how ivermectin worked on the people then, it was almost 100% effective. When I'm looking at ivermectin and people taking it now, and I'm talking about people that might have chronic illnesses, I'm talking about people that might have cancer, I'm talking about people that have an infectious process going on. If they were to take ivermectin, it would absolutely help them to improve. Now, for some of these, methylene blue, I think that's the name, and hydroxychloroquine. So some of these, if you have something that you're very, very sick and you have multiple levels of experiences going on, say respiratory, say something happening with your heart, say an infectious process that you just can't get past it, you're running a fever and everything, then if you take a combination of these different things, it will take care of it. So yes, I think ivermectin is an incredible medication. And I think that it will, again, it was 100% the nefarious people that said, oh, it's a horse medicine, because they were deliberately suppressing that it was used for people first. If you look at just about any of the medications, they can be used for your dog, your cat, your human. They just have different dosages and slightly different way in which they're made. So they just chose to make it a horse medicine because, again, they were trying to control and manipulate. But ivermectin in and of itself is an excellent medication, but it works even better in alignment or in conjunction with some other medicines. Oh, it just popped into us. I believe that the person that first created it even won the Nobel Peace Prize or the Nobel Prize for something new that was so good for humanity. And of course, that was suppressed with everything else. But yes, I don't see anything negative around ivermectin. The only thing I see is that in certain cases, it needs to be it's not as effective, or you don't see the response you're seeking because it really needs to work in conjunction with a couple of other meds. Okay. A few months ago, President Trump stated that Fox News proclaimed that they support him, but that they really didn't. Was that a false flag? Okay. So when I'm looking at Fox News and when I'm asking this question and when I'm looking at the energy of it, I'm literally seeing two Fox Newses. Is there a Fox News that's kind of part of the people that are awakened? And is there a second Fox News that's aiming towards all the people that are still asleep? I'm not sure. But I literally see Fox News, and one is fully supportive and one is not. That's pretty strange. Maybe someone can confirm if that's true or not, because I'm just not 100% sure. So to literally call it a false flags, there have been so many different false flags that have come out, especially in the United States, because of the process that they've been going through. But you've had false flags in just about every country around the planet, as they've said. As they said certain things, as they said, oh, this is what's going to happen here, so we prepare for this, but then something else is going on over here. So it becomes the distraction to keep you from seeing what is really going on. But when I look at Fox News and when I look at media, the CNN and Fox News and ABCs and MSNBC, all of those, I still can't help but feel they're going to come down. I don't know at this point, because I thought they'd come down long before now. But something's going to come up with communication when they disclose the vastness of the corruption, which is what they're working towards with everything that they've been finding in the government. And as they're going through these government agencies and as they're finding all these different things, you will begin to see a lot more of disclosure. I mean, they already are disclosing things, but people don't hear it. They don't recognize that as what it is. So was this a false flag? I guess one could look at it that way if you wanted to, but it feels like maybe, maybe it came out like that to say that there's actually two different Fox Newses. There's one that supports Trump and is behind him and is helping him. And there's another one that is on the surface is just, the same old thing that it was in the past. So I think that's honestly the way that was intended. But false flags, swan events, they have lots of different words that talk about different things that are happening and it's not always just in the government. It can be happening just in the society of the people where they are, or the society of another country. And it's put out there as a means of getting people to think. That's the number one thing that needs to happen in all of this. Humanity needs to start thinking. And I'm not just saying just going along and not analyzing, but critical thinking, where you read something and you say, is that legit or is that not legit? Does that make sense to me? And do I have information to back it up? Because people will throw stuff out there and others will take it as if it's truth, and there's no truth in it in any way, shape, or form. So critical thinking is what evolves as humanity is ascending, as humanity is thinking independently, as humanity is moving back into the frequency of their soul and that higher vibration. And so it could very well be that many people are saying, wait, I thought Fox was good. No, I thought Fox was bad. And so they're already experiencing that in that regard. Okay. Is David Wilcock a reincarnation of Edgar Cayce? He has just written 7 books on dreams that were of his dream prophecy that he had with Archangel Michael. Is David Wilcock the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce? We get a yes that he is. And so when we're looking at him, because we're trying to see how is it overlaid and how does all of that come together, it feels as if he is aware that he is. And when he's talking about these dream things with Archangel Michael, it feels like that's when he came to the true realization that, oh, hey, guess what? Because it feels like when he was younger, he didn't really, he's a very, very, very smart individual, has a very high IQ, and his mind is very analytical, and he can dissect things and go all the way down to the tiniest little particle. So much so that he loses people in the translation. So sometimes he's talking, getting more and more and more detailed, which is what he needs for himself to understand everything, is to tear it down to the tiniest particle. But other people are like, okay, let's just have the synapses and I'm good with that. So it feels like in that regard, he's very much David Wilcock in this lifetime. But when we look at him, like when we look at Edgar Cayce was an ascended being. He was an ascended master, and he had a state of being. He didn't need to analyze everything. He didn't need to know everything. He didn't need to have that understanding. He was also a trance channel. So he would go into this trance, he would bring through the information, and people would interpret it for him. And so that is something just like a polar opposite of that. So when we look at this and when we look at the two of them together, it's as if he experienced one in this situation, and now he's experienced the opposite side of it in the current lifetime. And this is true for so many people. You might have a consistent incarnation to have a particular experience, but let's try it this way this time and this way this time. But the books that he's written, some of them are very esoteric and very abstract, and others of them have great information that is the foundation of everything that is coming out now. So he did receive a lot of information before a lot of other people did. So in that way, some might say, oh, then that's a similarity to the prophet. But it's more so that we just see, when we look at Edgar Cayce, when we look at him, we see a blend that the soul is from the same soul essence. Whew, okay. Can you explain what is going on with the volcanoes? I sense energy movement when they erupt. Can you speak more about their intention? I also feel as if all the volcanoes are connected. There is absolutely a connection that goes inside the planet that does link the volcanoes. There may be some smaller volcanoes that are not necessarily a part of the network, but the big volcanoes that you have on all the continents, there is a connection. Just as there are certain monoliths and there are certain mountains that, like for example, what is the one down in Australia? Uluru. Uluru is connected to this mountain that is there near where Shelly lives. And there's a connection inside, because at the time that this one was, rising to the surface, it was during Atlantis, and it was actually much bigger than what it is now. But then there are other mountains in other places that people think, oh, were those massive trees that got cut off. And that, yes, that is a truth also. So coming back around, what's going on with the volcanoes? The volcanoes were one of the primary ways in which the land mass would increase, because it would erupt, it would be the fire, it would cool off, and then you have more land. That's one of the ways in which that worked. The volcanoes are, in most of the cases, connected to the dragon energy. And as the dragons are coming forth to be of assistance and to be in service to humanity again, then they're awakening from within the volcanoes. So most of these volcanoes have been active in the deepest part of the volcano. They never were inactive. People would say, oh, it's inactive because the top section, which is above the earth, is there's no lava coming out of it. But deep inside of it, there is a reactivation of these volcanoes. I do not get anywhere that this is something that people need to worry about. The volcano, in one of the times when the earth decided, okay, we're going to clean things out, they did it through fire. And then they did it through water. And then they did it through earthquakes. So there have been different ways in which the earth itself has transformed, releasing old energies or transitioning energies. And this feels more so as if they're awakening in such a way so as to allow the dragons to awaken, so as to allow them to come forth and help humanity. Cool question. Is Tartaria an actual part of our history? Indeed it is. I'm trying to look and see when it took place. If you're trying to look in a linear way, it might be around the time of the Renaissance. It was mostly in what you would call Europe and going over towards the Middle East. And there was some of it that did link all the way through to the late 1800s. And then when they began to rewrite history, that was when they kind of wrote that out, like Göbekli, is that what it's called? In Turkey was another place that there was a lot of history, there was a lot of civilization that was there, and now they were talking about, we're just going to bulldoze it and get rid of it. But so that's another example of them saying, no, there was no history here, no, nothing happened here. So Tartaria, there's a huge movement behind Tartaria. And so there are many people that are already aware of it, and they know where some of these biggest buildings, because it was during Tartaria that a lot of the the giants lived. Now the giants have lived in multiple different lifetimes, or what do you call them? Eons, and different experiences of civilizations on the earth plane. But Tartaria did have a significant number of them. So many of these buildings with the massive arches on them were there because of the giants. Okay, I just heard someone say, well, how tall were the giants? Some of them were as tall as 35 feet. The majority were in the neighborhood of 20 to 30. Some of them, actually, a few of them were even as much as you would call 80 feet. I have no idea what that is in meters, but yes, these were significantly large individuals. All right, anything else? When are we going to meet the fabulous beings of light? Thank you, if you're referring to us. You've met us. We will be walking on the earth with all of you in, well, we do walk on the earth in certain locations for very short periods of time. And oftentimes, like even with Shelly, we don't necessarily physically appear because we don't need to in order to communicate through her. But there are other individuals that need that physical connection. And so we tend to manifest like in the mountains, like Romania, Japan, Australia, different parts of the world, including the US. We might manifest for very short periods of time. We're talking minutes or an hour or something like that. So we do manifest in physical form on the earth plane right now. However, for us to be walking and just a part of society where we stay for days or months or weeks or years on end, that's not going to come for another 5 to 10 years, something like that. So the pyramids were built exactly by whom? I already answered that. You can go back and listen to it. Different parts of the world, they were built by different people. That was my first long discussion today. Can you speak about the huge giant mountain at the North Pole? It's what the company BlackRock was named after. Interesting. Now, this mountain at the North Pole has been used for many different things over the years. Back in the ancient time, there was a portal that let you go all the way through the planet from the North to the South Pole. And north of this rock is the portal was protected by this rock. It's got another name. It's not just BlackRock. There's another name for it. It begins with P maybe. And it's like a slang name is also called BlackRock, we believe, because I'm hearing another name. Anyway, so there are many portals that will go through the earth, and that is absolutely one of them. So it was used in the ancient, we're talking very ancient times, we're talking several 100,000 years ago was when it was used the most and at its purest means. Ever since Atlantis, which is when the downfall took place. So we're going to say in your last, say 20 to 30,000 years, that area has been used for nefarious means multiple different times. Okay, I thought someone was going to say what the name of this mountain is. Shoot, we just can't remember. I just can't remember. Anyway, sorry. Let me get back on track here. When even those people that you referred to as the Vikings, when they would go through this area, they knew that there was an energy there. They knew that there was something that they could draw from. And so they frequently would go past this area as a means of drawing energy and picking up the rocks, and they generated energy. And so they would be a means of generating energy for their ships. I mean, everyone always shows them, having the long ships and rowing, and absolutely they did that. But there were actually groups of them that even before that time would get these rocks, and these rocks would propel them or teleport them from one place to another. So they were used for that. And then just going back in your most recent history, the times of the First and Second World War was when they started putting, they like, oh, we're going to put our radio tower here so that people can see it. No, they started using this energy and trying to manipulate it, and they tried to take control of it. And so then they started putting up lies and different things about this area to keep people away from it. But it feels as if at some point in the future, this is going to become very well known. It's going to be a place that people will go to as a sacred missionary mission, where they might go to have a sacred rejuvenation. But it's funny because we know that BlackRock Corporation is filled with nefarious ones and has many, many, many misdeeds. And so to take something that was so sacred and then use it for that purpose, it just is another example of how they shift and transition things. Okay, we just heard a question. Someone just said that they had heard that BlackRock has already been capitulated, and so they wanted to know if that was true or not. Okay. There are many, many aspects of BlackRock that have been capitulated. That team of people that were at the very top are no longer there, and they have been replaced with other people that are, for the good of others, not just for the good of themselves. And so they have been changing it from the top down, but it's such a massive corporation, and there are, okay, that's very interesting. I can see that there are certain people and certain experiences that are a part of, they call them a part of BlackRock, that are still keeping up the illusion of what they're doing, because they're finding the people that they're working with, and those people that are still willing to barter their soul, so to speak. And so there's a certain amount of them that are acting as a decoy so that the people from the many different nations can bring down the individuals that are willing to work with them. We see that there's a whole nother section of it that is very relieved not to, to get out from under their thumb, to be able to go back to having ethical ways of doing things. And that ultimately, it feels like the entire organization is going to break down. It is not going to be what it is right now. It is not going to be something that has control over just about everything else. But it was one of, if not the number one strong arm for the nefarious ones. And they are no longer in charge of it. And it's in the process of being dismantled, but they are also getting other people through the ones that are having an association with it. So very interesting. So we talked a little bit about that, that big mountain up north. We talked about the company, and I guess that ended up answering it. Okay. How is Lithuania, the country, doing? Could we do something to lift them up into the light, please? When I look at Lithuania, I see a country that at its core is very much of the earth. It's coming across to me like farming, mountains. There are certainly big towns in it, like there are in everything. But when I look at this country, it feels like community and home, and it was somewhat close to that which was the very horrific, nefarious one. There was a huge overlay that was placed over Lithuania. And now that that individual is gone, we're wondering if this is breaking up, because it doesn't look as dense as what it used to look like. So we think that Lithuania, just like every other country in the nation, is going to go through its own process, and they are going to get better, and they will awaken. And it feels as if they're going quicker than what you anticipate. So, of course, we shine light on them and on any country that needs to have the light shown upon them, that people can awaken, that people can understand what's going on all the many, many different levels, and so that this process of ascension can move smoothly and easily. Okay. I have asked for a visit from one of the ULBs and the past request. Who is answered by... Sorry, well, I'm having trouble reading this. Give me a second here. I have asked for a visit from the ULBs and the past request. Who is answered by not the right vibes? I have since moved. I am away from the negative vibration, so I will again. I would really like to talk to one of y'all. So anybody that wants to talk to us can talk to us right now. All of our energies are very solidly a part of the earth plane. And we work through Shelly, and you know us as these names, but we work through other individuals, and they may know us by a different name because they're going by whatever name they received. But anytime that, be it you want to talk to us, be it you want to talk to the archangels, no matter who it is, if you go into meditation and you really center yourself and you anchor, and then it's like you're opening up your heart and you're opening up, maybe, you just picture it in your mind. You're walking in the woods, or you're sitting down at a table, or you're sitting in whatever it is that's comfortable for you. If you create that scene and then you ask for one of us to come in, if we don't show up physically, which chances are we will not, we will communicate with you through your consciousness. So if someone's unconsciousness is blocking them from hearing those messages or seeing the messages, or just having that, awareness just drop down within them, then that's something that each person needs to work on to have that greater opening and flow within them. So every single person has the ability to do this. The question lies in, are you open? Are you, and I could hear so many of you now, you're saying, yes, I'm open. Of course I'm open. Well, if you're not hearing or you're not receiving, then no, you're not. But it doesn't mean that you are not open consciously. It means that in your unconsciousness, there's something even stronger that is keeping you from understanding that you are receiving the messages. Because for any one of the light beings, if you ask, we show up. If you ask for a message or an answer to something, we give it to you. That's just the law of the universe. That's just the way it works. And it's always been that way. But over and over and over, people will say, no, it's not. No, I didn't get anything. No, you didn't answer me. No. And that is the ego getting in the way of what might be in your unconsciousness and keeping it from coming forward to your consciousness. So yep, you can talk to us anytime you would like. And for some people, it works that they just have a conversation, and maybe they're even saying both sides of the conversation. Like, when are we going to know more about those pyramids? Well, you can hear about the pyramids in lots of different ways, and maybe even if you look online, there'll be something that will trigger a memory in you. Hello, I'm waiting for you to tell me what the answer is. I really want that answer. Well, I'm telling you, literally, this is exactly what we do over and over and over again. So that what I was trying to show you with that is that someone asked a question, we answered it. They didn't think, they didn't consciously hear it. So therefore, their belief system is it didn't work. They didn't hear. They're not open. And so one of the biggest changes that all of humanity needs to go through is that realization that in these higher, lighter vibrations, you are open. Your intuition is open. It is aware. So start practicing with it. Start and go with the premise that, okay, I didn't hear it that time, but I'm going to still ask. I'm still going to be open to receive. I'm going to consciously open up my energy field and let as much come down into me as I can. And that is how you will open up more and more and more. Whew. Okay. Is there anything else, or should we go on to Albayon? I have talked a very, very long time. So hopefully I don't have too much to say, because Shelly will be getting tired in a minute. But I've really appreciated all of these questions tonight. And I'm excited that more and more information is going to come out about the ancient structures. I mean, we're talking about the pyramids right now, but there are many other ancient structures that are also have been a part of what we use. And so it's not just the pyramids that you will be hearing about. There will be other things. Some of them are in the water. Some of them are part of the land. And some of them, just as I spoke about with up in Tibet, as the vibration shifts and raises, you can see something that was always right in front of you, but because of the change in vibration, you never saw it before. So don't be surprised if things like that begin to happen to you. Beloved friends, family, thank you as always for allowing me to come in on Saluia. Greetings. It is I, Albayon. I thank you for this opportunity to come and share space here. There were a number of those questions that I was also merging with Brysentia to answer them. And I wanted to speak of this because for those individuals that are saying, hey, I'd like to talk to the ULBs, sometimes what you're tapping into is the consciousness of the universal light beings. So we three are the people, the beings, whatever name you want to give us, that create the universal light beings. We work with one another all the time. We work with humanity all the time. So whenever you have something that is creating communication, you could say, or creating a form of being in a space, in a state of being, it creates a consciousness that is associated with that. When you consider that we've been working with this individual for, what is it now, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years? Yeah, 9 years. Crazy, man. During that entire 9 years, anytime that we got together, it was the three of us as a group. As the earth, as humanity grew, we grew. They were able to connect to us at a higher vibrational frequency. Let me say that in the reverse. We were at this very, very high vibration, and we had to bring our energies down into a low enough vibration that we could communicate with Shelly with where she was at that time. So since that time, she's now connecting to us at a much higher vibrational frequency, in part because her vibration is higher, but also in part because the collective consciousness of the planet is higher. So that gives us an extra support. Like if you think of this ball of energy here, and if all of the energy around us was a very low frequency, it would pull us down too. If all of the ball of energy around us was a very high frequency, it would pull us up higher so that we would then be even harder to connect to. So when you consider those 9 years, everything that's been discussed, be it what we've said to Shelly or whomever we've worked with over the years, be it the questions that were asked in these group channels, all of it just stays within that consciousness because it was created by us and it was created by our alignment of working with people. So that's the ULB consciousness. On the earth plane, you are much more accustomed to talking about the collective consciousness. You've talked about how the collective consciousness was a very low vibration because the majority of the people on the planet were a low vibration, because there was control and manipulation going on a very, very widespread process. So that all dropped down the consciousness of the planet. And all of you that have been on this pathway, I mean, Shelly's been doing it since 95, but there are many, many of you that have been doing it since then and even longer than that. Every time that you would go in there and you would send your consciousness into something and you would clear something or you would heal something that was chipping away, that was chipping away at all of that low negative vibrational energy. And then there were massive portals such as 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, 2025. You know, all of these times are when it, instead of it being just little bits and pieces of it breaking apart, huge chunks of it were broken apart. And year 2000 was another time when a huge amount of it got cleared out. So you are comfortable, you already work with the collective consciousness of the earth, and you're accustomed to clearing it out and healing it. So when you think about the ULBs, and this is why someone said, well, it doesn't feel the same as when Shelly did it, because you may be tapping into that consciousness of the ULBs, and then you're going to interpret it through your own vibration and frequency. So the question is always good. Ask in a couple of different ways. Are you the ULBs? Are you the ULBs? And if you get a yes every time, then it's the ULBs. So so I wanted to share that. And this is another reason why not only does it create a support mechanism for us to be able to come down and speak for the length of time that we do, but this is also what is creating a space that others, other universal beings may come into that area to be able to speak through if there was something that needed to be said, and then they go back out to wherever it is that they go. So you could also think of like the various religions, or you could think of something that has a large number of people that are a part of it, creates its own consciousness. So think about that in the days and weeks to come, and think about how the consciousness continues to change. And it's changing because, number one, it is literally changing. It is breaking up and more high vibration is coming in. But also, the consciousness is changing because you are changing. And every time that you make a change, every time that you understand that you're vibrating in a different way and you understand things in a new and different way, that is also creating that reality for many other people. So this is a very exciting time. I mean, I might have spoken about this maybe 5 years ago, and people would be saying, sure, okay. Maybe it's out there and maybe I'm affected by it, but I don't have any influence on it. So that's one of the biggest changes, is that as everybody moves into the higher, lighter frequency, every one of you have the ability to create a change. And by creating that change within yourself and with how you're communicating with others, or whatever it is that you're interacting with others, this is all being reflected in everything that is happening around you. So you are more powerful than you give yourself credit for. You have more abilities than you think you do. Begin to let that change your reality. Begin to let that become a part of who you are. So I usually talk about different political things, or I usually talk about what's going on in the universe. There's not been much change for things in the universe since the last time that we got together. There continue to be massive changes going on the earth plane. And I don't remember if what I said last time versus this time, but there are so many things that are really anchoring and opening up in the changes in the United States. And a lot of that is beginning to wash over into the other countries, where other countries are saying, well, I want that too. Well, I want to do what they're doing. And I don't think this has been for my benefit. So I see, as I did mention this at some point along the way, but like, as I'm looking, I feel like Germany, France, Netherlands, and Great Britain, those four, for whatever reason, I feel like they're having big changes that are taking place. I feel like the citizens of those countries are rising up. They're saying, no, I'm not going to accept this anymore. No, I want change. But we also see how other people that are taking down the nefarious ones have been, arresting them for crimes against humanity. And in my opinion, my humble little opinion here, I feel like the world is far enough along that when these arrests take place, they need to be told immediately, and they need to be shown for what they are. For example, there were so many people that were arrested in the United States 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and everyone's like, oh, that didn't happen. I still see them out there. They're still in pictures. They're still, whatever. But it's like, no, they're not there. Those are fake. So in Europe, some of them have already been transitioned out, but they need to have the same type of takedown that's going to happen in the US. I feel like every single day there's more and more and more information coming out. I feel as if the Nasara Jasara is always the number one thing because people have struggled for so very, 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 very long. And so I do feel as if there's some form of, I just, every time I look at people, as I look at humanity, I just feel this wave of abundance that's coming in. Does it look exactly like Nasara Jasara, like they thought it was going to look like? Maybe. Or maybe it's just going to be the shift in potential that's available for people. And then those that are paying attention, those that are hardworking, those that are doing whatever are receiving that flow of income. And even as I said that, I said, nope, this is something for every single person. So there is definitely going to be the money has always been available ever since they took the money from the Vatican back in 2020 and 2021. The money is available in every single country for every single person. So this is going to come out. This is a part of the disclosure. And every time I look at it, I feel as if it's already happened. So it's happened because of all of those people in the background that have done their own study, that have done their own research, that have found out that information. But I do feel that it's going to shift from that into the everyday reality. And again, it could be any minute now. It could be in a slower way. We do know, as I've said to you many, many times, that they have absolutely chosen to do things in a much slower process so as not to collapse anything, so as not to, okay, as soon as I said collapse, then I heard, well, what about the stock market? Is that going to collapse? The stock market is not going to collapse or go away, but this is showing people how the stock market has been manipulated for so very long. This is a form of disclosure. And even though people may say they want to bring it down or they want to do that, it has already transitioned into the gold standard. So everything that you're seeing here is a manipulation, and it's done as a means of, the nefarious ones are sitting there doing what they always do. I'm going to punish them, and I'm going to do it through their money. I'm going to make them lose money. But the people over here are saying, no, we see what you're doing. We know that this is manipulation. And so this is all going to come out to society. It has already been shown to society, but society doesn't believe it. They don't get it. So a big part of everything that's happening is saying, okay, you didn't get that. Well, we'll do it again. Well, then we'll do it again. Well, then we'll do it again. And eventually everyone is going to have that knowledge. And I don't mean by eventually 5-10 years down the road. I mean, eventually 1 to 2 months down the road, everybody's going to get it. The question then arises, and I feel as if I kind of left Europe. I'm just saying that there's going to be disclosure of what was going on in Europe, and that is also going to cause changes in the people that are in place. So coming back, another thing that came up recently was the currencies, because like if you shift to the gold back standard, and what about these currencies in these different parts of the world? And it feels as if like the people that made investments in other parts of the world, that feels slower than we had anticipated before. We feel like a lot of those cryptocurrencies, they're being shown for the fakeness that they are. Not all of them are real. And it feels like that is kind of being weeded out at this time. So there's some sort of a correlation between that stabilizing and the foreign currency stabilizing. There's some sort of a link there. But it is coming. It is going to happen. But just as with everything, they're taking it very, very slowly so as not to create too much havoc. Whew, boy, it's like I had a big ball of energy I needed to explain. And so I talked as fast as I could. But let's go ahead into questions now. How do you see the IRS at the end of this year, both for people in general, but also for the employees? Okay. And by the IRS, she's speaking of the United States for those that live in other countries. I see by the end of the year, the IRS will be a skeleton staff of what it is right now. I see that there is more than 50% chance that it will be abolished completely. If it's going to be by the end of this year, I don't feel like that's so. I think it may hang on one more year, but I feel like there's going to be so many changes in the tax laws that by next year, when people are paying taxes, it's going to look completely different than what it looks now. I know there was some talk about under a certain amount of money, they don't pay any taxes. And that's a massive change that would help more than 50% of it's under 150, I believe. And that would literally give a break to probably 60 to 70% of the Americans, if not even more than that. So, most of the employees will be gone. It will be a fraction of what it is right now. And in fact, the IRS is already way less than what it was 2 or 3 years ago. It's like, was it 2020 or 2021? Sometime around there. Feels like more like 2021 was then when they were actually beginning to shut down aspects of the IRS. And so it feels like that's when a lot of the layoffs began. But there are still people working there, but a lot of it is animated. A lot of it is AI. And yeah, so for the employees of the IRS, it does feel like there are some that will remain. And but it feels like it's like I would say a fourth to a third of what it currently is. And it's because they're not going to have everybody paying taxes, because they're not going to be doing the jobs that they've been doing are simply going to go away, because they're not going to be people paying taxes like they were. Whew, but it feels like it's one more year before it's completely 100% abolished. Okay. Did Elon Musk study the Vedic texts that gave detailed information on building a spacecraft? So Elon Musk is a universal being. I mean, I use that word for us, but Elon Musk has a direct open alignment with his universal self. And so he didn't learn it from the Vedic text, although the Vedic text did have spacecraft. They absolutely did, and you can see it in the text. But no, he worked with his own people, and there's always been a lot of controversy around him that he was service to self, and that he was actually a pretty bad guy. And then they're like, we could see what he's doing right now, but he absolutely ascended, walked in much higher aspects of himself. But even when he was at that lower end, he was mostly just, whoever's going to support me, whoever's going to pay for what I need to get done, that's the team I'm on. And some people will say that's what he's doing right now too. We don't think so. We feel like he ascended his own consciousness, his own self, and that's where he is now. Is that he's, some could say, a different person than the one that he was before. So the craft that he is making, but even his cars that he started, that came from different technology. And that he got a lot of that he was channeling from the universe. In addition, with this spacecraft, it feels like he goes back and forth. We've seen the same with Trump too, that he goes back and forth out into the universe, and they get information and then they bring it back with them, or it gets downloaded into them here. But he's got a team of people that he works with that are on one of the motherships, just because it's close to the Earth. That's where they're doing a lot of this construction. The biggest thing is trying to get something that's going to work in the universe, but will be compatible with the Earth plane. That's what they're trying to figure out now. Okay. With all these people showing up to rallies against Trump, are they waking up or are they still sleeping? The rallies against Trump that they're having. Okay. All right, so two things about that. Number one, these rallies are not near as big as they say they are. Many of those pictures that you see circulating are pictures from other rallies and not currently going on. However, that being said, there are people that are rallying, and there are people that are protesting, and they're just doing what they think is their truth. And what they're finding out is that, yeah, what they're basing their truth on is not actually based in truth. So it is awakening some, but for others, it's making them even more solidified in their perspective of what they believe is their truth. So some of them continue to remain anti-Trumpers, and they will probably be anti-Trumpers until they die, you could say. We see he's going to turn the country around. I mean, that's already in the process of being done. He can turn the country around. They themselves can become incredibly wealthy. They themselves can have the house that they've always wanted, and they'll still say that was not due to him. So these are a group of people, and it's maybe 1%, maybe, no, I don't get any bigger than 1% that are going to be like that. Everybody else in between is going to these things, listening to them and thinking, wow, they're kind of a fanatic, aren't they? And so it is helping some to awaken. But as far as these pictures that you see, there were many people that were paid to demonstrate. The pictures are old and from other things that were going on. And those that are that small percentage, nothing's going to change them. I mean, who knows? I shouldn't say nothing. Maybe something will change for them at some point, but they're not gonna change because someone's having a conversation with them. They're not going to change because they see suddenly they've got more money in their pocket. They're not going to change for any reason other than something inside of them decides, I'm going to change. Okay. What is the best way to make contact and recognize contact from our higher selves? You know what? Shelly's starting to get really tired, so that's going to have to be a question for another time. We talked about it before on how to connect to that consciousness of the ULBs. That's just kind of the gist. Learning to meditate, learning to trust yourself, opening up your energy is the way to do it. That's the quick way. But I'm too tired to go into too much more detail. We have those bad wind turbines as energy source and the fields of solar panels, which are, in my opinion, destroying the land. Is there going to be another source of energy on the planet, which is good and healthy for our planet? How do you see the coming years? So there's a great deal, like a lot of those wind turbines, we agree they're not good for the birds. They're not good for the land. And we feel like we just see a lot of them laying down on their sides, and like they get to a certain level, they cannot be repaired, they cannot continue to use, so they're just laying down on their sides, and there's no way to get rid of them. Kind of like all those batteries from these electric cars, and even a lot of the electric cars, because the battery, I don't know. Anyway, so we've talked before about the magnetic energy and the hydrogen energy. Those are what I see as two of the most promising. And there will be sources, but this is probably 3 to 5 years down the road. It's already in place. People are already working with it. And so it could very, very easily be before then, but I don't see it changing too terribly much before that time, simply because the solar paneling and the wind turbines are so present already. And these other things need to kind of be in place, and then they'll come in, and then they'll get rid of them all. So then what are they going to do with all those solar panels? What are they going to do with all the wind turbines? And it feels like something comes up that can take them apart or do something to them that will, not leave too terribly much of a footprint. But there's something I wanted to say about that. Crystals. There's going to be a lot of energy in crystals, and people will hold a crystal in their pocket. They might have a crystal in their home, and everything will be run off that crystal, because that crystal is going to be generated by that magnetic energy, and and then cars we see on hydro. And so there's lots of different alternatives to those two, but those were the best of trying to do something different before. But they were always flawed from the very beginning. And in part, this was something that was invested in by a small number of people. And then they built it up and grew it to what it is because it was giving money back to them. This next energy that we see coming through is going to be more of the free energy that's going to be available to everybody and not just to those that are making a lot of money off of it. Okay. All right. I think, yeah, we need to go to Crystallia. So thank you for, as always, I truly have appreciated this time with you. And for all of you that do want to speak with us, I invite you, reach out to us, and we are here and we are open to receive. Hallelujah. Greetings. It is I, Crystallia. I'm just feeling the energy of Shelly, and I'm probably going to be very short. I wouldn't answer, don't think I'm going to be able to answer too many questions, or I'm not going to talk a whole lot right now, simply because she's really getting tired. Anyway, I want to speak to you about paying attention to what brings you joy. So many people are very busy and they're stressed out in life and they're just trying to make ends meet and they're trying to finish their job, have their family, do their work, their housework, whatever it is. And they forget to find joy. So I'm putting out into the energy of the ethers and into each one of you. Consider, if you will, how can I find joy today? In addition to that, taking that the next step, how many of you have gotten into a rut or gotten into a routine where you do nothing but work and sleep, or work and family, or work and you're not really doing anything that's just joyful to you? So start asking again, what did I used to like to do that was joyful? Oh, I used to go dancing. I used to walk in the flowers. I used to go to the beach. I used to go to the mountains. So people that the past 4 years with that massive transition of energy, it really caused a lot of people to stop and just say, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm not going to go anywhere. But now start thinking of joy. Start thinking of what can you do in your life that can bring joy into your life, and then follow through with it. Because sometimes people will say, yes, I would like to do this again, but then you do nothing more about it. I'm talking about joy now because joy can transition anything. When people are in depression, the least little bit of something that is joyful can transition what that is. When people are struggling in conflict and they're just kind of at each other, if you can find some little piece of joy, it'll shift the energy around that conflict. So, of course, love is always my mojo. That's what I always love talking about. But let's consider joy as another expression of love, because when you have joy that is an emotion that you're feeling, it begins to affect your thoughts. Your body literally can shed weight. Your body can feel differently if you're having aches and pains and problems. Then if you bring joy into your life, then it can shift those aches and pains and problems. So I would say to you, consider any way in which you can manifest joy. No, I don't like that. Consider any way that you can become aware of joy in and around you, through choosing it, through paying attention, through just looking at others. And what about the times when you watched that movie where you laughed so hard that you fell off your chair? And when was the last time that you did that? So if you can, make it an effort or an intention that that you find some joy somewhere in your life. There you go. Okay, I can do 1 or 2 questions if there are some. Can you speak more about the current energy on the planet and tell us how to stay centered around the sleepers? That's a great thing. That's one thing that, like, through private sessions with Shelly and different people, And like all these written in questions, how can I handle it? What can I do? How can I stay in my space? So the more that you are aware of your own being, meaning that physical person, the emotions, the thoughts, the beliefs, the spiritual, the crystalline, when you begin to recognize how much is you, then you begin to recognize how much you've been giving away to everybody else. You maybe were giving away your emotions. You maybe were giving away your thoughts and beliefs. And that giving away can also be by letting them take over, by letting their thoughts and beliefs be more important than yours, by letting their emotions override your emotions. So you can see that imbalance. The more that you understand who you are as this person walking down the road, and all of the energies that make up who you are, then the more you can be intact. It's that unconscious way that others come in, or you give away, or you drain, or they drain. That's when it's really hard to be around the people that have not yet awakened. The other thing is, like, if you're going to work or you're going someplace and all they do is talk about the negativity, well, whether their negativity comes from being unawakened or they're just negative people, then walk away. And if you absolutely cannot walk away, then you're going to laugh at me, but just kind of pull all your energy inside of you and start humming. Just, and people are like, what are you doing? Aren't you listening to this conversation? Oh, the conversation, start humming. And again, that's bringing back the joy, because inside you might be laughing like, oh, they can gripe and moan and do whatever they want, but I'm just going to hum a song that I like. And that's a way that it'll disconnect you from the others. You feel worse, you feel bad when you're connected in and you're draining away your energy. So anything that brings you back into center and back into focus and lets go of everybody else is what makes you feel better. And that's how you'll get through it. What can we do now for Mother Earth to raise the frequency? Do you have a practical exercise that we can use every day? So this is a two-way street. The intrinsic energy of Gaia, or Mother Earth, is a very, very high frequency. It's just been brought down to the everyday reality and what it's been for the last, 30, 40,000 years. So inside of Gaia, in the core essence of Gaia, is already that high vibration. So what you can do is anchor your energies, connect to the core of Gaia, and then just release it out through you. You can bring it up into you, you can send it out through you. And that's one way that you're helping Gaia to balance, by allowing that inner soul or source of Gaia to come out and be present. The other thing you can do is paying attention to the energies that are around you as much as you can, to be outdoors during a certain time, to connect with a tree, lean against a tree if you need to. Shelly doesn't have it. The crystals, the different things that people have, by the crystals all came from Gaia. I take it back. There are some synthetic crystals, but the vast majority of crystals all came from Gaia. So by holding a crystal and transcending or sending energy through that crystal is another way of working with the energies of Gaia. You can also use a crystal to direct the energy into, like if there's a conflict going on, or, anything like that. You may laugh at me for this one. Don't watch the junk on TV. Don't watch the things where everybody's angry or everybody's killing one another or everybody's, because that's going to bring you down whether you know it or not. So the more that you are in a place of love and balance and expansion, the more that it's helping Gaia. Connecting, showing love and compassion and awareness for Gaia is going to help Gaia. So it doesn't have to be just one thing or just another, but it's paying attention to your relationship within yourself and others, and just don't engage with the negativity. Okie doke. Maybe one more, and that'll be it. I love to dance the salsa, but I stopped that because of the spike proteins of the vaccinated. I would not worry about that. I would just do what brings you joy. Go and dance the salsa. Don't worry about the spike proteins. Don't worry about, if you have a, what is it called? If your immune system is not good and you pick up colds and flu and things from other people, then sure, pay attention to that. But the average person, they're fine. And the spike proteins were more of an issue when the active vaccinations were being given. And what's being given now has already been transitioned. And it's not the totally negative vaccines that they were for those 2 or 3 years there. So again, you're keeping yourself from doing something joyful because of fear and anxiety. So if you're in a space of, I'm here to dance the salsa and have a wonderful time, that's a very high vibration, and nothing's going to come in and interfere with that. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. I honestly think that a great deal of transition has taken place even since the last time that we talked. So you are here in this process of massive changes taking place. They're coming from the universe. They're coming into each one of you, and everything is being affected. And you are each very much a part of that. So thank you for that for this opportunity to be able to chat with you, and know that we're ever with you on Saluia. Whew. Well, this is Shelly. OMG, that was a long, long one. I think I started at 5 after. So over an hour and a half, an hour and 35 minutes. Ooh, I'm feeling really dizzy now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and head out. But thank you, everyone, for being here. When we get together in a couple of weeks, it's going to be on Tuesday night instead of Wednesday night. I know I usually try for Wednesday, but I'm busy on Wednesday. So it'll be that Tuesday night. If you're just listening to it, if you made it all the way through here to the end, then consider subscribing, consider whatever it is, sharing this, whatever it is that you may want to do. But thank you, everyone, for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.